This is the second lecture of our series of receptor and signaling. If you do not watch the first lecture, first watch the first lecture because this is the continuation of the first lecture. So I told you earlier that there is one comment asked that cyclic AMP is a second messenger, right? What you should write it down in such comment: protein or polypeptide hormone are not able to enter the cell. They exert their effect without entering into the cell. So they first combine with the membrane receptor, and the hormone itself act as a first messenger to the cell. Then they activate second messenger inside the cell to exert their action, and cyclic AMP is one of the second messenger. So cyclic AMP is the second messenger system. This is how you should write it down in the exam. Now let's discuss the second system at the GI system. As I told you earlier that this system is more or less same as the GS system, right? What we understand in GS system is that it has a G stimulatory system having a G protein, GS protein. It increases the cyclic AMP level. Now on the other hand, G inhibitory system is basically having a G protein known as a G inhibitory protein, and it decreasing the cyclic AMP level. Now how it inhibit the system, how it will decrease the cyclic AMP level? It is by inhibiting the adenylyl cyclase enzyme. Right, so let me revise you a little bit of that system. It is this one blue, this green color is the G protein coupled receptor. This one is the extracellular domain to which the ligand will bind. This one is the intracellular domain to which the G protein will bind. Now this is the G protein coupled receptor. This is the G protein. So before binding of a ligand, this G protein do not get attached with the intracellular domain. Once the ligand came and bind with the extracellular domain, there is a conformational changes will take place, and this will be binding with this entire G protein subunits. And after that, alpha subunit get detached from the beta and gamma subunit and get attached with GTP, and this GTP will as it get GTP, it become energized and combined with this enzyme known as adenylyl cyclase. Now what happened in GS system? Once this alpha subunit attach with this adenylyl cyclase, it stimulates the adenylyl cyclase, and this adenylyl cyclase will increase the conversion of ATP into cyclic AMP. Now in this GI system, what will happen? Once these AI subunits get attached to this adenylyl cyclase, it actually inhibit the adenylyl cyclase enzyme. So no more conversion of ATP into cyclic AMP, and all this action will be depressed, right? Now what will you write it down in exam if one is asked? See, let me give you an example of GS system and GI system. Epinephrine, as you know it, in heart it stimulates the heart more or less, and this one by a B1 receptor, it has a G stimulatory action. In the same fashion, ACH, acetylcholine, will inhibit the heart by acting GI system. How this action will take place, we are discussing in our subsequent slide. Now how to write it down in exam about G inhibitory system? Now hormone bind with G protein coupled receptor, AI subunit get dissociate and bind with GTP and energize. Then it inhibit the adenylyl cyclase and eventually decrease the formation of cyclic AMP and decrease protein kinase A activity and decrease phosphorylation of various protein. This is how the G inhibitory protein will work. So you can see that G stimulatory protein is actually stimulating the cell. On the other hand, G inhibitory protein will inhibiting the cellular activity. So this is how there is a balance in the cellular activity. G stimulatory activity get balanced by or counteract by G inhibitory activity. This adenylyl cyclase is produce more cyclic AMP, while on the other hand phosphodiesterase enzyme will destroy the cyclic AMP and make the balance. Third one is protein kinase A. It increase the phosphorylation of the protein, while on the other hand phosphatase dephosphorylate that protein. So epinephrine, by acting on the beta adrenergic receptor, will activate the heart, and SCH, acetylcholine, via muscarinic receptor will decrease the activity of the heart by G inhibitory activity. Now let's get a clinical correlation of this thing. What happens in pertussis? You heard the term pertussis. It is also known as a whooping cough. Now what happens in pertussis? Pertussis is actually an uncontrolled violent coughing which often makes it hard to breathe. So person has to cough very violently and uncontrollably, and it will make person to very hard to breathe. So what happened in pertussis? In pertussis there is a problem with G inhibitory protein. What happens with G inhibitory protein? So the pertussis is basically disease of the respiratory system. It produces a unique type of toxin. It goes to respiratory membrane and it bind with G inhibitory protein. What it causes by binding G inhibitory protein? This pertussis toxin will fuse them together. What they fuse them together? They fuse the G inhibitory protein complex, that is alpha, beta and gamma. It fuse them together so the alpha subunit are not able to detach when it need to be detached, so adenylyl cyclase will be inhibited. So what will happen? It bind with the G inhibitory protein, fuse them together alpha, beta and gamma, so they are not able to detach when it is required. So basically alpha I subunit do not get detached. Adenylyl cyclase is not inhibited. So basically adenylyl cyclase get overworked and increase cyclic AMP. And this is what happens in pertussis. Now the second clinical correlation is the cholera. You heard the term cholera, right? It is basically due to the Vibrio cholerae. What happens in the cholera? The person having a diarrhea, right? How the diarrhea will occur in the person suffering from cholera? So the problem is basically in G stimulatory protein. What happens in the G stimulatory protein? So starting with our discussion first, cholera is a disease of GIT, and the Vibrio cholera produce a cholera toxin known as CT. It destroys the intrinsic GTPase activity of alpha subunit. You know that alpha subunit has an intrinsic GTPase activity. So as the time pass, once the alpha subunit get activated, it is basically alpha subunit the alpha subunit that leads to GTPase activity, and GTP will converted into GDP, and the further activity of GS stimulatory system will be stopped. Now what happens in cholera? In cholera, the GTP remain attached to alpha subunit because alpha subunit do not have intrinsic GTPase activity. So alpha subunit is continuously activating the adenylyl cyclase, so increase adenylyl cyclase activity, and adenylyl cyclase get overwork and increase cyclic AMP formation. So what happened in pertussis? In pertussis there is a decrease inhibitory action, while in case of cholera there is increased stimulatory action. As cyclic AMP formation increase, it causes increased activation of protein kinase A, and this protein kinase A will phosphorylate various protein. In cholera, that protein kinase A causes phosphorylation of the channel known as CFTR. Now what is CFTR? CFTR is a cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulatory channel. Now what this cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulatory channel will do? it increase chloride secretion. Now as the chloride secretion will take place, sodium and water will follow the chloride and ultimately diarrhea will occur. So this is what happens in cholera. Now the third system we are going to discuss is the IP3-DAG system. Again, it is the third type of second messenger system. First one is cyclic AMP, second one is cyclic GMP that we are going to discuss in after this, and the third one is IP3-DAG system. Now what happened in IP3-DAG system? Let's see. See, as the hormone approach to the cell, it bind with the receptor. This one is the 7-pass receptor or the G protein couple receptor or the serpentine receptor. All three are the same. Once the hormone bind with the receptor, the intracellular domain get conformational changes and it attach with G protein. Now this G protein that use IP3-DAG system is known as GQ protein. So once the intracellular domain bind with GQ protein, alpha Q subunits get detached and this alpha Q subunit get bind with GTP and energize, and it ultimately bind with this transmembrane enzyme known as phospholipase C. Once the alpha subunit bind with the phospholipase C, it actually activating this enzyme. Now this phospholipase C will act on PID, phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate, that is present over the cell membrane. What phospholipase C do? It cut the PID. It break the PID and make two substance. One is DAG, another one is the IP3. Right? Let's revise this thing from the start. Once the hormone came, it bind with the extracellular domain. As soon as the hormone bind with the extracellular domain, this G protein couple receptor, this intracellular domain get conformation changes and it bind with G protein. That G protein is known as GQ protein. As soon as this GQ protein bind with the intracellular domain, alpha Q subunit get detached from the beta Q and gamma Q subunit and bind with GTP, and it release from the binding of this beta and gamma, and it is again alpha Q subunit bind with this transmembrane enzyme. The name of that enzyme is phospholipase C. In GS system, the name of the enzyme is adenylyl cyclase. In GI system, it is again adenylyl cyclase, but in GS system, it is actually activating the adenylyl cyclase, while in GI system, it is inhibiting the adenylyl cyclase. Now in this system IP3 and DAG, alpha subunit is activating the phospholipase C enzyme. Now what this phospholipase C enzyme do? It will break the PID, phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate, that is situated over the cell membrane, and break into two fragments. One fragment is IP3, another fragment is DAG. Alright. Now what this IP3 and DAG will do, that we discuss in our next slide, but right now let's summarize what we have learned in this slide. So basically it is a GQ system. Alpha Q subunit dissociate from the G protein and stimulate the phospholipase C enzyme. That phospholipase C will split the PID, means phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate compound, that is situated inside the cell membrane, and break into two portions. One is IP3, another one is DAG. Now let me give you the full form of what is IP3 and what is DAG. IP3 is nothing but inositol triphosphate, while in case of DAG it is diacyl glycerol. Now up to that level you know that GQ system will producing IP3 and DAG. Now how this IP3 and DAG works? Let me show you the another diagram from the different book. Now follow my leads. See, this is the phospholipase C enzyme. It is going to break the phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate PID into two things. One is DAG, that is written over here. Another one is IP3, that is written over here. Now let's focus to the IP3. This IP3 goes to this, as this round structure is the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Once it bind with this receptor, IP3 receptor, it release the calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Now calcium are present inside the cytoplasm. This calcium will combine with CAM, that is calmodulin. Once the calcium combined with the calmodulin, it make a calcium calmodulin complex and activate the CAM kinase enzyme, calmodulin activated enzyme, and causes phosphorylation of the protein, that it is known as protein kinase C. Same thing over here. Now what happens to the DAG? Once the calcium is released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, it combined along with the DAG, it activates the enzyme known as phosphokinase C enzyme, while on the other hand IP3 will activate the calmodulin kinase. So there are two kinase enzyme will be activated in IP3 DAG system. Via IP3 CAM kinase and via DAG it activate the protein kinase C. Both this kinase will phosphorylate the different set of the protein that is present inside the cell, and cellular activity will be changed. Got it? This DAG and calcium combinedly activate the protein kinase C and cellular activity will be changed. Now how to write it down in exam? IP3 mobilize calcium from the ER, means endoplasmic reticulum. Calcium bind with the protein calmodulin. Calcium calmodulin complex will be formed. That complex will activate the CAM kinase. That CAM kinase or calmodulin kinase will phosphorylate the various protein and causes very specific physiological action. Now what will happen to the DAG? DAG along with the calcium stimulate a protein kinase. That protein kinase is known as protein kinase C, and phosphorylate the various protein and causes the very specific physiological action inside the cell. Now the next system that we are going to learn is the cyclic GMP system. Up till now we learn cyclic AMP system and IP3 DAG system, and now we are going to learn about cyclic GMP system. Now the difference between cyclic GMP system and cyclic AMP system is that in cyclic AMP, as the name suggests, it activates the cyclic AMP, while in cyclic GMP system it will activate the cyclic GMP. So most of the steps are remain same. The steps are changed from the activation of the enzyme. So cyclic GMP will be formed by guanylyl cyclase, while in case of cyclic AMP it is activated the adenylyl cyclase. Let me show you the figure of cyclic AMP. So in this diagram you can understand that this alpha subunit get activate adenylyl cyclase, and eventually it increase the cyclic AMP level, while in cyclic GMP system this alpha subunit get attached to guanylyl cyclase and activate the cyclic GMP, and rest of the sequence are the same. It will phosphorylate the protein kinase, while here protein kinase that is activated by cyclic GMP system, it is known as protein kinase G, while in case of cyclic AMP system, that protein kinase is known as protein kinase A. Got it? A stands for AMP, G stands for GMP. Got it? Now how will you write it down in exam? Hormone bind with the G protein couple receptor, alpha subunit get dissociated, bind with GTP and energize and activate the guanylyl cyclase. Now this guanylyl cyclase will increase the formation of cyclic GMP, and this cyclic GMP will activate the protein kinase G. Again, this protein kinase G will do phosphorylation of the various protein. That protein may be the enzyme, or it may be structural protein, anything. And there are two hormones that you need to remember which use this cyclic GMP system. They are the atrial natriuretic factor and nitric oxide, ANF and NO. You guys thinking that I do not show the hormone that use cyclic AMP system and IP3DAG system. There are list of hormone that we are going to use a certain formula to remember which hormone is using which system. So that might be the our last slide of our today's lecture. So right, this cyclic GMP system is used by only two hormones. That's why I enumerated over here. Now here's the thing. One ligand can bind with a different type of receptor and produce different type of action. Let me repeat myself one more time, or let me give you an example of that. See, the dopamine is a one ligand. The dopamine is stimulating one portion inside the basal ganglia and inhibiting the other portion inside the basal ganglia. So how the one ligand dopamine is stimulatory at some level and inhibitory to the other level? The answer is the same, that ligand will be work via different receptor. So here is our next slide. One ligand can bind with different type of receptor. Let me give you the another example is the acetylcholine. Acetylcholine will be work differently via different receptor. The receptor that is used by acetylcholine is known as a cholinergic receptor. There are two type of the cholinergic receptor. One is nicotinic receptor and another one is the muscarinic receptor. Let's discuss the nicotinic receptor first. Nicotinic receptor is basically ion channel receptor. So in our first lecture we discussed that whenever ion channel receptor or ligand ion channel receptor get activated, it opens the channel. In this case they are opening the sodium channel, so it leads to sodium influx. Now the other receptor is muscarinic receptor. It is differ from nicotinic receptor. It activate the GPCR, G protein couple receptor, and via acting G protein couple receptor it decrease the cyclic AMP. So acetylcholine will be using GI system in G protein couple receptor. So you can see in this slide the ligand is single acetylcholine, but via working through nicotinic receptor it causes different kind of action, and via working on muscarinic receptor it produce different kind of action, right? On the other hand, it will stimulate via nicotinic receptor and inhibit via muscarinic receptor. Now let me give you the another example. This one is little bit of trickier. That one is epinephrine. How epinephrine or adrenaline will work? Epinephrine or adrenaline will work via adrenergic receptor. Now adrenergic receptor has a two subtype. One is alpha, another one is beta. Again, alpha is subdivided into alpha 1 and alpha 2 receptor, and beta is subdivided into beta 1, beta 2 and beta 3 receptor. So basically adrenaline will work via 5 different receptor and producing 5, this is three different type of action. Now how adrenaline will work via alpha 1 receptor? Let's see. Via alpha 1 receptor, adrenaline will activate the GQ system. Now you know what happens in GQ system. It will causes production of IP3 and DAG. Via working on alpha 2 receptor, adrenaline will activate the GI system. You know what will happen if ligand will activate the GI system? They are basically decreasing the cyclic AMP level. And what happens when the adrenaline will work via beta receptor? It is basically GS system. So what they do by stimulating GS system? It will increase the cyclic AMP. So you can see that epinephrine or adrenaline is the one ligand, but via working on different kind of receptor, they are producing different kind of action. Now the next example is the GABA and dopamine. How the GABA and dopamine will work? See, GABA will be work via GABAergic receptor, right? And this GABAergic receptor is basically two type, GABA A and GABA B. Now this GABA A receptor is a ion channel receptor and is basically chloride. It opens the chloride channel, so it causes chloride influx. On the other hand, GABA B receptor is the GI system, G inhibitory system, and it will decrease the cyclic AMP. So the GABA working with different type of receptor produce different type of action. Next example is the dopaminergic receptor. We are going to enumerate over two receptor over here, D1 and D2, but to give you a quite hint that dopamine is actually having working via 5 receptor, D1 to D5. D1, 3 and 5 are using this same receptor and 2, 4 are using the same receptor. Now right now just remember that dopamine work via dopaminergic receptor, dopamine D1 and D2. Now this D1 receptor is a GS system receptor. It work via GS system, so it basically increase the cyclic AMP. While D2 receptor, it is basically GI system, so it decrease the cyclic AMP via inhibiting adenylyl cyclase. So you can see that dopamine via working on D1 receptor will activate the cell, and dopamine via working on D2 receptor will inhibit the cell. This is all about the G protein couple receptor. Now our next receptor that we are going to learn is the single pass receptor. As you can see that the name suggests it pass through the single time. Over here there are one receptor. There are two subunits of one receptor. One is the extracellular domain that is situated outside the cell membrane. Another one is intracellular domain that is situated inside the cell membrane. This is the ligand. That ligand will bind with the receptor and activate this intracellular domain. Now it is known as an enzyme link receptor. There are two types that we have to learn in single pass receptor subtype. One is the tyrosine kinase and another one is tyrosine kinase associated receptor. Now what is the difference between these two that we discuss in our subsequent slide. Let me give you a very small hint how this single pass receptor will work. As its name suggests, it is enzyme link receptor. This intracellular domain, once it activated, it has a tyrosine molecule attached to it. It causes phosphorylation of that tyrosine molecule that is attached to this intracellular domain. So whenever any ligand came and bind with the extracellular domain, it will activate the intracellular domain and causes autophosphorylation of the tyrosine molecule that is attached to its intracellular domain. Once this tyrosine molecule is activated, it causes phosphorylation of the other protein that is situated inside the cell. This is how this receptor will work. Now, what is the difference between tyrosine kinase receptor and the tyrosine kinase associated receptor, JAK and STAT pathway? Let's learn that thing. Tyrosine kinase system. This system is used by insulin. It is a very long action of the insulin, the long sequence of mechanism of action of insulin, but we are going to learn a small portion of it. The actual set of the action will be learned in insulin itself. So how this tyrosine kinase receptor will work, just follow my lead. These three messenger are the ligand. They bind with this extracellular domain that is situated over here. Once this ligand will bind with the extracellular domain like this, intracellular domain get activated and causes phosphorylation. This cross reaction is known as cross phosphorylation. This right sided portion will phosphorylate the left tyrosine molecule that is situated in the left intracellular domain, and this left sided intracellular domain will activate the or phosphorylate the right side of tyrosine residue that is situated on the right side of intracellular domain. So basically they are doing auto phosphorylation. They are phosphoryling themselves like this and producing IRS. It is known as insulin responsive substance 1, and they activate the sulfhydryl protein, and they again activate the sons of 7 protein, then they activate the RAS protein, then they activate the RAB protein. That we are going to discuss in detail when we learn insulin. Right now, for today's lecture, just remember that this tyrosine kinase system, how it will work. Once the ligand bind with the extracellular domain, they causes phosphorylation of the tyrosine residue that is present inside the intracellular domain. Once they get auto-phosphorylated, they causes phosphorylate the different proteins inside the cell. Alright. Now, the second system is the tyrosine kinase associated receptor system. How it will work? Let me give you the example first. The growth hormone is used this system. What happen in this system? Once the hormone bind with the extracellular domain, intracellular domain does not have the tyrosine residue. It does not activate the it does not phosphorylate the tyrosine at intracellular domain level. Instead, this intracellular domain will activate the another system known as JAK. JAK means Janus kinase. So intracellular domain will activate the enzyme known as JAK kinase or Janus kinase. The Janus kinase, once they phosphorylate, they combine with the STAT, and this STAT make a dimer. Two STAT molecule will make a dimer. They combine with each other, and that STAT dimer will enter inside the nucleus and causes gene expression or increase the transcription and translation and all the protein synthesis work. So basically, what is JAK? JAK is basically the Janus tyrosine kinase. Its enzyme. Once JAK is activated, it make a STAT dimer, STAT. What is STAT? The full form of STAT is like this: signals transducer and activator of transcription kinase. Again, it is kinase, and this kinase will be make a dimer like STAT dimer like this, and it will enter inside the nucleus and causes its reaction or causes its activation reaction inside the nucleus. Now the hormone that are going to use this system is growth hormone, prolactin, and the cytokines. Got it? This is all the system that we are going to learn till now. First we learned the group 1 hormone that are lipid soluble that entered inside the cell, and the receptor are present over the cytoplasm or the nucleus. Second one is group 2 hormone. In this group 2 hormone, we learned the ion channel receptor, then single pass receptor. That single pass receptor is again two type, tyrosine kinase receptor and this one tyrosine kinase associated receptor, and third one is G protein couple receptor. In this G protein couple receptor we actually learn GS system, GI system, GQ system and cyclic GMP system. Now the portion that I missed in this discussion is the hormone that use cyclic AMP system. Now which hormone using the cyclic AMP system? Hormone that have C or S in its spelling having a cyclic AMP system. So any hormone, this is a formula, it is more or less right for about 90 to 95% of the cases, right? So any hormone that have C or S in its spelling is using cyclic AMP system. These are the list: ACTH, TSH, CRH, MSH, FSH, along with it is LH, then calcitonin, then secretin, right? This is the one side. Second one, that any hormone that work via receptor that have 2's in its name, right? Any hormone that have 2's in its receptor or in its name, they are using the cyclic AMP system. What are they? First is angiotensin 2, then V2 receptor, vasopressin or ADH, then alpha 2 and beta adrenergic receptor, that is catecholamines, epinephrine and norepinephrine, then M2 and M4 muscarinic receptor, that is work by acetylcholine. So this acetylcholine work via M2 and M4 receptor. It is using cyclic AMP. Catecholamines, when they are using alpha 2 receptor, they activating cyclic AMP system. Vasopressin or ADH, antidiuretic hormone, via working on V2 receptor, it will activate cyclic AMP system. Angiotensin 2 is again activate cyclic AMP system. And the last one is PP, pancreatic and parathyroid gland. They also use this cyclic AMP system. Parathyroid hormone and pancreatic hormone, basically two, somatostatin and glucagon, are using cyclic AMP system. Remember that insulin is not using this system, right? I am making this formula to make you remember all the hormones they are using the cyclic AMP system. See, it is very important because lots and lots of MCQ has been come in recently, that which hormone, this hormone is using which system, that they give you in option 4 hormones, and in another set of MCQ they give you a system that cyclic AMP is used by and give you the 4 option. Except all this type of question is already asked in entrance exam, so try to remember the hormone via systemic manner. Use this formula. This formula is 90 to 95% is correct. Now the hormone use IP3 and DAG system. Hormone having G in its spelling, they are the list of the hormone having G in their spelling. One is GnRH, another one is GHRH, and the gastrin. See, gastrin and CCK having the same family that you are going to learn when you learn in GIT system, right? So CCK is also using the same system that gastrin is using. Second one is the hormone that have 1 in its receptor. जो छूट गए थे हमारी पहली स्लाइड में वो यहाँ पे आ जाएंगे. V1 receptor from vasopressin, alpha 1 receptor of catecholamine, M1 and M3 muscarinic receptor for acetylcholine. This hormone via this receptor using IP3 and DAG system. Got it? आप यहाँ पे एक और भी जोड़ सकते हैं, M1, M3 and M5 muscarinic receptor. All these three are using IP3 and DAG system. So IP3 and DAG system is used by a hormone that having G in its spelling, GnRH, GHRH and gastrin. CCK using the same family, came from the same family from the gastrin, so CCK is using IP3 DAG. Hormone that have 1 in its receptor, V1, alpha 1, M1, And the another one you need to remember is TOP, top. T is stands for TRH, O is stands for oxytocin, and S is stands for substance P. Got it? These are the lists that use IP3DAG system. Again, this is right for about 90 to 95% of the cases. Sometimes it is not work, but most of the time it will work. Now, hormone that use tyrosine kinase system. In this heading tyrosine kinase, we used both tyrosine kinase and tyrosine kinase associated receptor system. The formula that you need to remember is this one, epic growth. E stands for erythropoietin, P stands for prolactin, I stands for insulin, C stands for chorionic somatotropin, and G stands for GH, growth hormone and growth factor. And under the heading of growth factor, all the growth factor will come. Insulin like growth factor 1 and 2, no growth factor, and all the other growth factor. All the growth factor are came in this heading, tyrosine kinase. So if you make this thing in clear in your mind that tyrosine kinase system will be activated or used by the hormone of epic growth, cyclic AMP system will be worked by the hormone that having C or S in their name, or the receptor having 2 in their name, right? And PP means protein, the pancreatic hormone except insulin and the parathyroid hormone. While the hormone that use cyclic GMP system, they are the hormone that having G in its spelling along with gastrin along with CCK, that because they have same family. Again, the hormone that work via receptor that have 1 in their name like V1, alpha 1, M1, and finally TOP. Got it? Now the characteristic of the hormone. There is a hormone the receptor having a specificity in its characteristic. So basically the specificity receptor is that for each and every hormone there is a very specific receptor is there. Right? So in this diagram there are 3 type of hormone, and this one is the receptor, yellow receptor, but it is suitable for only the receptor which is in yellow color. It is a very beautiful diagram. So the moral of this receptor specificity is that the hormones are actually flowing in the blood all over the body, yet hormone has a very specific target tissue for its action. So hormone cannot work in each and every tissue. They have a very specific receptor for their targeted tissue in which they work. So this is a very important aspect of the receptor specificity. Second one is the signal amplification. Again, this is the very important one. See, in this diagram it is shown beautifully. The one substance, one molecule of hormone will come. It will activate the protein kinase, the G protein, and it will activate this set of the adenyl cyclase. This adenyl cyclase will increase more amount of cyclic AMP. This cyclic AMP will increase more amount of protein kinase enzyme. So basically signal is going to get amplified, and the action that we get is become pronounced. This is the second characteristic of the hormonal receptor. Now the next one is the regulation of the number of and sensitivity of the receptor. First one is the down regulation. So what is the down regulation? As you can see in this figure, this one is the hormone. There are 3 receptor for its hormone. There are times when we need to decrease the effect or action of this hormone, while in case of disease or in case of cancer, when there are more amount of hormone present inside the circulation, so there are more chances that the hormone get their higher amount of action. So we need to decrease that action. To regulate the hormone action, we have to decrease the number of receptor. That is known as down regulation. So what is the down regulation of the receptor? It is basically decreasing in the number of receptor. It regulates the hormone action when the hormone present in excess. So basically by decreasing the number of receptor, it decreases the responsiveness of the target tissue to any particular hormone. Now just opposite to this down regulation, there is another regulation known as up regulation. Now what happen in up regulation? It is exactly opposite to the down regulation. Whenever the hormone is present in less amount and we need more action or more amount of action of that hormone is needed, what our body will do, it will increase the number of receptor, so the action of the hormone will be increased. So up regulation of the receptor is basically increasing in the number of the receptor. It will regulate the hormonal action when hormone present in less amount, so increase the target tissue responsiveness to that particular hormone. Got it? So there are two sets of regulation of receptor is present in our body. One is down regulation, another one is up regulation. Now this is all about the receptors and their basic signaling.